What's up, Retro Freaks? It has been right at about a week since the long-awaited first AEW video game has hit the scene. Now, gaming off the grid, we aren't badass biddly gun enough to get a review copy, so we had to actually do a little grinding, but I wanted to spend a lot of time with this game before I offered my 2 cents. I think my opinion on this should carry some weight. I've been playing wrestling games since pro wrestling on the NES. I've played every major WWF game that has ever been released, all the way through the N64 era, the stuff on PS1, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, N64, PS2, GameCube. Original Xbox I'm not quite as savvy on, but I do have both games and have played them, and then all the way up to the modern stuff. So I've played a lot of wrestling games. I know what I'm looking for in a wrestling game. I think that's very important. And when AEW announced it was partnering with Ukes, they've been involved in some pretty heavy-hitting wrestling games. The SmackDown games got some ties to the No Mercy games, and that was really what was touted by AEW and the reps around this game, is they were going to bring wrestling back, video games back, if you will, to when it was fun. When you were sitting around playing 4-player, that N64 vibe. So, what do we get with AEW Fight for Forever? Well, they have a big hill to climb, all right? This is a David versus Goliath battle. You got the 2K games with WWE that has a monster roster. And that's the only thing on the market right now for first party, like AAA released wrestling games. That's all there is. There's some indie stuff floating around out there, but for your average gamer, it's WWE 2K or it's nothing. Which a few years back was a bad thing. I feel like they really righted the ship with 2K22 and 2K23. Things are looking really good on the 2K front. But that's not what this is about. This is about AEW Fight Forever. I want to jump into the gameplay first. I think gameplay is paramount in wrestling games. It's the first thing that I think matters, because I think about games like Legends of Wrestling, of yesteryear, that actually had a killer roster, and they just didn't deliver on the gameplay front. So you can have a great roster, shitty gameplay, game is poor. I do like the gameplay in this game. I'm playing it on Xbox One, is how I'm playing the game. I think that's worth noting. I've heard there's some issues with how it runs on the Switch, which would be to be expected, in my opinion. Gameplay, though, feels good. I felt right at home when I jumped into it. I don't think it would make you think No Mercy all the way. There's some things stylistically that will, like the spirit meter and the way you get your special, things like that. I look at this as like a conglomerate of that No Mercy, Revenge, WrestleMania 2000 style, mixed with the GameCube wrestling games, so WrestleMania 18, Day of Reckoning 1 and 2, that style's in there a little bit, and then the SmackDown games that were really famous on the PS2. So that's kind of what I'm feeling here. There is some hit detection issues. There were hit detection issues back in the day in those games, right? But we are comparing a game that is out in 2023 to games that were released 20 plus years ago. So we got to keep that in mind. But overall, the gameplay feels pretty dang good. One thing I have heard no reviewers mention, though, is the targeting in this game. It's a little dicked up. And I would go to the first Casino Royale Battle Royale match that you have when you start the Road to Elite. And we'll get into game modes a little bit later. But once you're in that, and you pause, it does not let you change targeting to manual targeting, where you, the user, controls the targeting. And I can't tell you how many times, and I'm not complaining because of difficulty, I had it on normal and I still won the Battle Royal, okay? That's not the issue. Numerous times, though, I had guys hanging off the ropes. All I needed to do was punch or kick them to get them out of the ring, and for whatever reason, my guy would just shift his focus to a guy that was behind me, involved in other action. I don't want the game to do that. When you manually switch your targeting, it's also not very apparent who you're looking at. It's kind of like a head kind of turned. It's not like really obvious, or there's not like an indicator that shows who you're supposed to be looking at. That's really annoying. It really disrupts gameplay. Some people might be like, oh, it's no big deal. In a one-on-one match, it's not. But in a battle royale, you lose your targeting on a guy you're throwing out. That's a really big deal. So that was annoying. Feels a little unpolished, unrefined. Reversing and everything makes sense. But I would give the gameplay a pretty decent score if I was to score it. I felt right at home. It was very pick up and play. I think that's the best thing that this has going for it up to this point. Let's talk about the graphics. Graphics aren't a huge deal for me as a gamer. They have to serve the game. The game needs to be fun. These graphics they're okay. They're not great, though. I would say probably PS3 era level of graphics, and that's maybe even a little bit of a stretch. I'm probably downgrading it a little bit, but it doesn't feel or have the polish of the 2K games. Not a deal breaker for me. I've heard a lot of people bashing the graphics, and they're good enough for the game to pull off what it would need to do. Again, gameplay would come before graphics for me, and so would fun factor. So graphics, yeah, they're okay, all right? The modes, that's where this game falls very, very flat, and it feels very, very hollow to me. Road to Elite is the only form of longevity. You can play it with a creator wrestler, you can play it with a standard character or wrestler if you choose. And it's, I'm not going to say it's not fun, it's fun, but it's just very hollow. It's a lot of text messaging, you know, like Twitter posts or whatever that you have to read. There is some audio interjected. You know, you have to eat in between events to like regain stamina or health, and it's just kind of pointless. You know, you just eat something, maybe take a selfie with a fan. It just doesn't have a ton of immersive depth. You have to be a wrestling fan or a fan of AEW to get the enjoyment out of it. But other than that, that's about all this game really has. There's creative functions, of course. They're not great. I wouldn't say they're absolutely horrid either. And then you got your matches, which if you're looking to pick this game up to play it, you know, 4-player at home, couch co-op, however you want to do it, I think you'd have a lot of fun that way. But if you're sitting at home as a single player, man, there's daily challenges, there's challenges to complete, but there's just not a lot of meat on the bone for a full price game when it comes to game modes. There's no season mode where you just start a season and you just play week after week. You play the weekly events, you play the pay-per-views when they come up. You're going for titles, you're defending titles. None of that exists in this game. It's just the Road to Elite, and it's a pretty short game mode. I think you can beat it in 1 or 2 settings pretty easy. Maybe a little variety because the story will change, obviously, if you win certain matches, lose certain matches, but I just feel like the game feels very hollow. So what did they get right? One thing that WWE 2K doesn't offer that this game kind of does, but they didn't get it all the way right, is a little bit of an alternate attire. You have your street clothes, you have your wrestling clothes, some customizing options there. But I miss the days where every character just had 4 outfits, right? I don't understand in the 2K games why the Ultimate Warrior, let's use him as an example, who wore all these different colors, he has 1 attire. That's silly to me. I think they could have really made some inroads and done more with that in this game, but at least it does offer a little bit of variety when you're playing Road to Elite and things like that. I think what this game did wrong, targeting is annoying. No entrances. Yes, we skip through entrances. Is it a deal breaker? No, but it's annoying. If I unlocked, you know, a hidden, you know, wrestler or something like that, I want to watch their entrance. It's kind of fun. Do I skip them most of the time? Yes. Do I skip them in WWE 2K? Yes. But I still want them to be there. No commentary. Again, not a deal breaker, but it does speak to, there's just this hollow feeling with this game. Once you get past like the initial like nostalgia wave of, man, this kind of feels like the old stuff, that dissipates pretty quickly the longer you go through these matches and stuff. It's cool, and they're pointed in the right direction. The compass is like pointing them like, go there, guys, go there, you almost have it, but they don't get to the destination. Commentary, when you have Tony Schiavone on the roster, you got Jim Ross on the roster, Excalibur, whoever the hell else they have in the booth these days. Yeah, I think commentary could have been really, really good and would have even brought more of that nostalgic feel to this game. So my overall review, I'm going to make this quick and to the point because it's just me today. You know, Robert hasn't had a chance to play the game, but I'm going to say the game's close, but it's so far away. Left me feeling just kind of disappointed. You know, the game was delayed. There was a lot of hype around it. Makes me, you know, think like out loud, man, just kind of shut up about saying no mercy and speaking these things into existence, because then that's the bar. And those are some of the best wrestling games of all time. And we could have a debate of what is the best wrestling game of all time, but I think you have to agree that pocket is somewhere in the WCW vs. NWO Revenge to the SmackDown life cycle on PS2. It's somewhere in there, okay? Whether you think it's Here Comes the Pain and I think it's No Mercy, I digress. That was the golden age of pro wrestling video games. And this game offers less than a lot of those did. To me, that's a problem. The way you tackle Goliath, being the 2K series, is you got to have fun gameplay, tight gameplay, tons of game modes, tons of customization, because you are not going after that roster on 2K. You are not. You're not going to be able to touch it. This game doesn't have a bad roster, not on the level of 2K. So you have to knock everything else out of the park. I'm happy there's competition on the market. I'm happy AEW has their first video game under their belt. I hope they're laying the groundwork for bigger things to come, but at full price, this isn't it. Just my opinion. If I had to give it an overall score out of 10, I'd probably say a 5, maybe a 5.5. Let's go a 5.5. If you're an AEW fan, it's worth playing. If you're a wrestling game fan, it's worth playing. But I think you gotta wait on this one. Paying full price for this game, if this game would have came out at $40, 30 bucks, something like that, I'd say for sure, day one purchase. I will have fun with this game when I have friends over. Am I gonna be done with this review and go play it some more as opposed to playing WWE 2K22? Probably not. If I wanted to play this, I might even fire up SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. You would be better served to take your 70 bucks for this game, in my humble opinion, and buy a PS2 and SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. I think you'd have a lot more fun. I appreciate the effort. Competition is great for all of us gamers. Hopefully it pushes 2K to do better things, and hopefully it pushes them to try again and make another AEW game. Time will tell. I hope they do. First bout though, first match on the card. I think they kind of take the L here. Nice effort. You walk away saying, you know what? That young wrestler, he's got potential. But I don't think he belongs in the big leagues yet. That's how I sum up AEW Fight for Forever. Why do I say fight for forever? Fight forever. Fight forever, fight forever. I probably messed it up the whole video. That's okay though. I'm an idiot. But that's my opinion on this game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you next time right here on the one and only Gaming Off the Grid.